and he's stopping by our show to give us some fantasy hockey advice. Nick, I want to start with maybe some slow starters around the league that you're looking at and going, this might not just be a bad 4 or 5 games. These might be guys you want to sell off your fantasy team.
Happy afternoon or start to the Friday, boys. Thanks so much for having me. Yeah, I should preface by saying I'm not a quick trigger type fantasy owner, so I like to take my time with decisions. Having said that, as you mentioned, there are some names where you start to wonder, like, what's going on here? It's crazy for me to say, and I'm so careful to doubt this guy, but Alex Ovechkin, something just different. It's off with this Washington Capitals team, guys. They look slow. They look old. It's been a really, really weird start. And on top of that, Ovechkin, who you more times than not can hammer that shot prop, he's got back-to-back games of 0 shots on goal. But I'm still giving him the benefit of the doubt. He's definitely on my watch list right now. Another guy I'm looking at is Timo Meier with the New Jersey Devils. And this is more so, and it's something I brought up in the offseason. There's only one puck to go around in New Jersey. And I wonder if the lack of exposure to like a Jack Hughes in the top line, at least right now, what that means for the fantasy value of Meier. You see the stats on your board right there, still pointless through 3 games. It's very, very early on. Again, it's important to stress that. And the last name I'd bring up is Connor Hellebuck. I just wonder about the Winnipeg Jets in the grand scheme of things here in this season, what type of team they are. I think they're a middling team. Gabe Vilardi goes down. They're a team looking for identity right now, and I think it's going to be a long season for Connor Hellebuck. So probably a guy I'm fading right now. But again, very, very early, just some names to monitor for sure.
All right, so let's flip it around, Nick, and let's talk about some guys that are off to slow starts that owners may have already sold off that would want to buy on right now.
Yeah, so that's a thing too, right? Because there's a lot of players who have been surprise performers early on, right? Like Joel Eriksson, that comes to mind. I just wonder about Matt Boldy being hurt right now. I think sell high candidates, I think you have to wait a couple of weeks. I'm not sure anybody's going to jump at these type of players just now, but I just don't see the attachment long-term this season to Kirill Kaprizov. They got Hartman with them right now. Again, a lot can change, but Joel Eriksson Ek is the guy I'd probably sell high on right now. Brady Shea goes without saying, contract here with the Carolina Hurricanes. They're such a fascinating team, guys. Like, there's so many studs in that back end with Carolina, specifically on the power play, like D'Angelo, Burns. They got Slavin, they got Pesci. Like, the list goes on and on. I just don't think this is sustainable for a guy like Brady Shea, even if he's in a contract here. And the last would be Carter Hart, as you see again on your screen right there, off to a really, really good start. It is really, really early. I'm just not a believer, sadly, in the Philadelphia Flyers. I think Carter Hart's a great goalie, and I think at some point in time, maybe they move him or look to move him. And I know in the offseason, maybe they looked at that a bit. But I just don't see the long-term staying power of a Carter Hart at those type of numbers this season.
We had John a couple of weeks ago to give some advice to people before they drafted. And I wanted to give you a chance to maybe pat yourself on the back a little bit, Nick. We were asking you about players in new markets that could break out, some bounce back candidates. Is there anyone who's off to a flying start early this year, and you're pointing them being like, that's not a fluke. That's not a 4 or 5 game heater. Like, I believe in this guy to have long-term success.
Well, we'll look past Connor Brown in that call because, oh boy, with the Edmonton Oilers, took him about 7 shifts. He's now on the third line, irrelevant again. I like a name you guys actually just brought up, Sean Durzi. I know I got some heat after doing my hit with you guys. How can this guy come on and say Sean Durzi is going to get 50-plus points? Well, he's off to a pretty damn good start.
That's not what we gave you heat for, just so you know.
Yeah, I know. It was a nice call, right? I said nice.
Yeah, I was saying Matthew Nyes for Calder when Connor Bedard's on the ice, and then Logan Cooley's on the ice, and it was like, all right, we just wiped everything that you just said because you said that.
Yeah,
Sean Durzi, he's been averaging a 45-point face. Did not surprise me to hear you say 50.
Yeah, so Durzi's a guy I'm high on. I love the fact that he runs that first power play. And the other one I've been really high on is Alex DeBrincat. I'm not sure, careful to say, but like, the Ottawa Senators, I don't think it was the best fit. We'll say that. So he's a Michigan native. He's back home. He's gelling so far with a guy like Dylan Larkin. I like that fit quite a bit. I mean, would I jump as high as to say that he's going to be a guy who's the number 1 fantasy ranked player this season? Probably not. But I love the appeal of an Alex DeBrincat. I still think there's the opportunity, a sliver of hope to maybe buy low on this guy right now. But he's off to the type of start you need in the season. So those are a couple guys that stand out. Jonathan Huberdeau's off to a pretty good start. Elias Lindholm, guys like that who we really, really looked at the value and said buy low on these guys. Like Victor Hedman's another guy who comes to mind. So there was some value to extract certainly from your drafts here.
Yeah, 100%. I've also been really impressed with a guy like Seth Jarvis in Carolina, Nick. I mean, with Svechnikov still not playing yet, Jarvis is, and he probably will be when Svechnikov's back, but he is locked into that top line on Carolina. He's producing like crazy.
Yeah, I love the contract year guys too, like Teuvo Teravainen and guys like that, or it's like Brady Shea. Like they seem to play above expectation, and quite frankly, it is one of my strategies when drafting a fantasy roster, and I'm sure it is for you, Ty, as well. Like I need a couple guys on my roster with the motivation of money. Does it always pan out? No, it doesn't, but more times than not, you're likely to hit in a couple of these guys. And yeah, there's a lot of contract year guys off to really, really good starts. There's actually one in Toronto who's doing pretty well too.
Who would that be, Nick?
I don't know who you're talking. Willie Nylander. Is he staying? Is he going? We'll have Frank on Leafs Morning Take one day to find that out.
There you go. I wanted to tee up for a nice little Leafs Morning Take plug. That's where you can find Nick Monday through Friday, 11 a.m. Eastern, with his pal Jay Rosehill. Nick, appreciate the time talking a little fantasy hockey. It's brought to you by DoorDash. Again, that promo code Nation25 in all caps. Our Canadian listeners can get 25% off and zero delivery fees on their first order of $15 or more when they download the DoorDash app and enter that code. Thanks, Nick. Have a good weekend, man.
My pleasure. You guys as well. Take care.